Hello friends, we are again here on your channel and this is our second chapter. It is related with Indian economical system, Indian economics, and we'll move forward with our new concept of economics. In previous chapter, we uh, discussed about the economics and economic system which was prevalent before the independence, and we got some major factors how we became backward in economical system and how Britishers they got power from our resources and ruled over the world. So basically, economics is a main tool by which a nation could become more and more strong, and that country could rule over the world by getting these kind of resources. As you people will would be observing these things nowadays, because America, Russia, Ukraine, Europe, India, and many more nations are indulged in these activities. So this is our introduction how we developed our economy and what happened after the independence. As you know, we got our freedom from Britishers on 15th August 1947. That was the date, 15th August, very important date for us, 1947. That was the time when we got independence. And finally, we were masters of our own destiny after some years of British rule. The job of nation building was now in our hands. The leaders of independent India had to decide, among other things, the type of economic system. Types of economic system. Economic system. There are many types of economic system. Many types of economic system. And how and what economic system was suitable for our nation? A system which would promote the welfare of rather than a few. Welfare of. So this is the reason our constitution, our nation is known as the welfare nation. So welfare of all, yeah, welfare of most of the people, all, rather than few. This was the principle. This was the principle given by Bentham, Jeremy Bentham, the great philosopher. So there are different types of economic system, and among them, socialism appealed to Jawaharlal Nehru the most. Socialism. Socialism is a type of economical system or economic system, is a type of political system, is a type of uh, all types of systems like distribution of resources, the handling of resources, the controlling of the resources. Many things are there in socialism. So this is a kind of philosophy which carry the idea of economics also. And Jawaharlal Nehru ji was our the first prime minister, we all know. He was really influenced by this system because socialism was the system by which all the people would be considered the same as by nature, would be considered as equal before the constitution, before the law, before the nation, and no discrimination on the basis of getting low or high things. So that was the thing which appealed the Jawaharlal Nehru ji, Jawahar Lal Nehru, right? And he believed that the distribution of resources should be suitable to all people of India. No discrimination should be there. No strong appeal would degrade the demand of poor, the demand of weak. So that was the thing. So, however, Jawaharlal Nehru ji was not in the favor of the kind of socialism established in the former Soviet Union. So, the Soviet Union, USSR, he believed in communism, and communism is a bigger concept than socialism. We'll discuss later when we will talk about the idea of philosophers, the idealism, right? So Jawaharlal Nehru did not consider the pattern and the type of economy prevalent in USSR. He believed in socialism. Socialism has many types of socialism. We'll discuss later. So here Jawaharlal Nehru ji believed in the type of socialism. In Soviet Union, where all the means productions, for example, all the factories, all the farms, those things were controlled by the government. That was prevalent in Soviet Union. Factories, farms in the country were owned by the government. That is happening in China also. You may observe that. So it is not possible in a democracy like India for the government to change the ownership and the pattern of the land and other properties of its citizens, because we had many states, many types of monarchy, many types of kingship theories. So it was not suitable at that time, because if we adopted or we tried to adopt that kind of system in India, there would be another report. So that was the problem in India. And it is also true that the most of the leaders of leftist party, they were pressuring and type of to create pressure on Indian Prime Minister, Indian leadership, that we also must adopt the kind of system which was prevalent in Soviet Union. So we just denied, we means the government of India that time denied to adopt that kind of system. And in that way it was done in the former Soviet Union. So Nehru and many other leaders and thinkers of the newly independent India sought an alternative to the extreme version of capitalism and socialism. It means we just made a way between the two concepts. One was capitalism. Capitalism. You know, in capitalism, the main focus is to earn more and more profit, to make more and more money, not even focus on any kind of welfare, social welfare. That was the way we denied to adopt the extreme socialism and extreme capitalism and socialism. So we adopted that way by which both the institution, both the situations, all the people could survive in one nation. So that was the thing. So they found the system. What system? They found the system, this answer in an economic system which in their view combined the best feature of socialism without its drawbacks. In this view, India would be a socialist society with a strong public sector, right? India Now, this is a basic characteristic of Indian economy. So, we always try to manage these things on the behalf of this system. Like, we adopted the best features of socialism, as well as we are holding the hands of public sector. So sector, both sector, they help each other, they promote each other, and both the ideologies in these terms are promoted by each other. This is the thing, right? Because we have vast population, so it is not easy and suitable to provide employment and economics to all people. So every sector must help the Indian economy, the Indian society, as well as our nation interest, right? So we adopted that kind of middle way. So India would be a socialist society with a strong public sector, but also with private property and democracy. The government would plan for another thing. So, strong private property and democracy, strong private property and democracy. In democracy, all the people of India have right to decide or to adopt any kind of business, right? So that would plan for another thing, that for the economy with the private sector. That was the thing. The private sector being encouraged to the part of plan effort. So, the Industrial Policy Resolution of 1948 and the directive principle of the Indian Constitution reflected this outlook, right? The Industrial Policy Resolution of 1948. Industrial, as you are, industrial, when we say industrial policies, it means government would focus on industry to make available for the businessman, for the nation, for the demand of the nation, for the income of the nation, both the things. The Industrial Policy Resolution 1948 and the directive principle of Indian Constitution reflected this. DPSP reflected this outlook. In 1950, the Planning Commission was set up with the Prime Minister as its chairperson. The era of 5-year plans had begun. So, era of 5 years plan. 5 years plan. It consisted of Planning Commission. Planning Commission, the term Planning Commission is reflecting, so it means there would be a planning to promote everything what was considered necessary. So, what the things was commission considered necessary? The education, the primary sector, the secondary sector, the industry, everything was considered, right? So that was set up in 1950. The question is here that in which year the Planning Commission was set up. So that was the thing. And the Prime Minister as his chairperson Who would be the chairperson? Prime Minister. Prime Minister. Prime Minister would be the chairperson. 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 Right? So another question is, who was the chairperson of Planning Commission? As you know, this department has turned into another department. And the tenure of the system was 5 years, as you are observing or explaining here. So three things are there. So the concept of Planning Commission was to make ready the system, the plan for nation for 5 years. Now we'll talk about the goals of the 5-year plans. What were the goals of 5-year plan? This is the another thing. The goals of 5-year plan. The goals of 5 years plan. Goals of 5-year plans. Goals are always in a plural sense. There are many goals, but a plan should have clearly specified goals. The goals of 5-year plan were growth, number one, growth, B, growth of every sector, every person, every department, and some focused department also. Modernization. Modernization means to use the techniques, the use of technology, to use the tools, the reform the society, the reform the economics, the reform the science. All the institution should change and update accordingly. Self-reliance and equity. See, self-reliance. And I am talking of self-reliance in agriculture, in industry, in demand, everything. So reliance. And fourth and last thing is equity. Equity. Right? Equity of private people, partnership, equity of man, equity of resources, equity of everything. Right? So equity. This does not mean that all the plans have given equal importance to all these goals, because in 5 years you can't focus to the all sectors. 5 years is that time when we had not so much money, when we had not so much cooperation of the world, and the world was also struggling after Second World War. So that was the thing, how India faced the struggle, how India faced the difficulties, as we were dependent to other things. So due to limited resources, a choice has to be made in each plan. So why we have no plan for equal importance to these goals? Because due to limited resources, a choice has to be made in each plan. So when we have limited resources means according to your population, according to our population, that was not suitable to focus on all sectors. So when we talk about that in each plan, which of the goals is to be given primary importance. So nevertheless, the planners have to ensure that as far as possible, the policies of the plans do not contradict these 4 goals. So we'll learn how the goals of planning some detail. So first of all, we'll discuss goal of all these things. So first was growth. Growth. Growth means what? It refers to increase in country's capacity to produce the output of goods and services. To produce the goods and services. The goods and services. That is the first point of growth. It implies either a large stock of productive capital, larger stock of productive capital, or a larger size of supporting services like transport and banking, right? So you can say uh, there was a concept of larger stock of productive capital, larger larger stock of productive capital. Now you get a point. Productive capital. Productive capital. It means transport and banking, etc. For example, transport and banking. This capital support the services or an increase in efficiency of productive capital and services, right? So this was the thing. Now, a good indicator of the economic growth, the good indicator of the good indicator of economic growth. The good indicator of economic growth. When we say the good indicator, it means how many indicators we have of economic growth, right? So there are many things. In a language of economics, is the when we say the good indicator of economics is steady increase in the gross domestic product. That is the good indicator. Steady increase in the gross domestic products. Steady increase in GDP. GDP. Later we'll discuss the whole concept of GDP, right? But formally the GDP is the market value of final goods. GDP is the market value of goods and services. Formally, goods and services. The formal concept of this thing. And goods and services produced in the country during a year. Produced in a country in a year. This is the concept known as GDP. The value of all goods, like what we have, our foreign reserve, how many resources we have, the value of all those things. So we studied this concept in class 10th, and later we'll also discuss of these things. So we can think of GDP as a cake, and growth is increase in the size of the cake. We discuss the concept of cake and growth. So the GDP as a cake, it means how the GDP is larger and bigger, the growth is larger and bigger. So there is the concept of cake. This is the kind of candles we are putting here. Not the real, I am not an artist. The cake. How the cake is bigger, the cake is bigger. The cake is bigger, then the GDP is bigger accordingly. Bigger accordingly. That was the concept of cake and growth. If the cake is larger, more people can enjoy it. The participation of the people. More people can enjoy if the cake means GDP. GDP is bigger. For enjoying the most of the things in life, we must have the great GDP, as our GDP is growing day by day, year by year, month by month. So that was the thing. So it is necessary to produce more goods and services if the people of India enjoy. We are talking about first 5-year plan. We are talking about first 5-year plan. First 5-year plan. So produce more goods and services. If we think that our people would enjoy more and more thing, or a more rich and varied life. So to become rich and varied life, we need a great GDP, right? But this is an economical term. This economical term doesn't reflect the philosophy of happiness. So this is the real concept of being rich and getting varied life. So the GDP of country is derived from the different sectors of the economy, namely the agriculture sector, the industrial sector, and the service sector. So there are three kinds of sector. I am talking about the first, according to first 5-year plan, 3 types of sectors which reflect the GDP of that time, our country's GDP. So first is agricultural sector. Second is industrial sector. And third and most important, see, service sector. So 3 sectors of that time reflect the GDP of country. Later, this contribution made by each of these sectors makes up the structural composition of the economy. Right? That was the structural composition of these things. Structural economy or composition. Right? Composition of economy. In some countries, growth in agriculture contributes more to the GDP growth, while in some countries, the growth in the service sector contributes more to GDP growth. It means if we take together service sector and agriculture sector, the agriculture sector grows according to the technical reforms, according to the available and provided resources by the government. Many more terms are there. Modern tools, modernization, modern seeds, more and more things, because it meets the demand of the people of that particular country. And it also creates the system by which a country could get self-sufficient economical system and self-sufficient in terms of the availability of the foods and grains. And second point is modernization. First was the growth, and second is modernization. Modernization is the second term we are using. To increase the production of goods and services. I was discussing how and why we should utilize the modern tools and the things. So we are talking about to increase the production of goods and services. The producers had to adopt the new technology. Producers have to adopt new technology. You know, the concept of modernization always reflect the end of the previous tools, previous things, and the adoption of new things. That is always modernization, because the concept of modernization depends upon the adoption of new tools, and which are and which would be prevalent to the society and the demand of the nation and the demand of the world also. That the thing, right? So producers have to adopt new technology. For example, a farmer can increase the output on the farm by using new seeds varieties instead using the old one. So new seeds variety for farmers, right? That is also the concept of modernization in terms of agricultural reforms. Similarly, a factory can increase output by using a new type of machine. So for factory, new type of machines. Yesterday we discussed about the light machine and the heavy machines. Light machine are used for primary things, and heavy machine is the big processing unit, right? So is for factory. If we are talking about the modernization of country, and modernization of country might be varied accordingly and varied with the countries of the world, because some countries would be so advanced in technology, some countries would be backward in technology. So that's the thing. So adoption of new technology is called modernization. So in simple language, what is modernization? Here we are writing the adoption of new technology in all way of life. So this is modernization. To give up the previous backward concept, to adopt the new concept in society as well, in economics as well as in education as well as, this is the modernization. However, modernization does not refer only to the use of new technology, but also to changes in social outlook. So changes in social outlook is also considered in terms of modernization. When we use the term social, it means there are various persons, various terms like the women, the children, the marriage, everything which is connected with our daily life. So when we get changes in social outlook, such as recognition that women should have the same rights as men, then men and women, right? So that is the social outlook. In a traditional society, women are supposed to remain at home while men work. That is not a great definition, because in Vedic culture, in Vedic period, in later Vedic periods, in Janpadas period, most of the women, or not of all society, most of the women, they always go out with their husband or without their husband to meet their dependency, to meet their daily needs, and they were indulged in their routine. But that is a taboo definition given by these terms, and some people adopt it. So, in traditional society, women are supposed to remain at home while men work. But as you see in recent scenario and in Vedic scenario of Indian culture, most of the women, they always go for work. So, a modern society makes use of the talents of women in the workplace, in banks, factories, school, as it is happening nowadays. So, we are talking about the men and women. So, in banks, factories, etc., like most of the countries are trying to adopt this kind of system in their life. Most countries are hesitating to adopt this, but they know the relevancy of these changes and the availability of women in all public places or private places. So, and as such, a society in most occasions is all prosperous. Now we talk about third point, that was self-reliance. This is the main thing what we faced that time. Self-reliance. Self-reliance. Self-reliance in all fields of life. A nation can promote economic growth and modernization by using its own resources or by using resources imported from one nation. By using by using by using technical things, modernization, everything, but we must have great resources. Resources, by using resources. If we have not the ample quantity of resources, we would have to get from another nation. So this is the main concept behind the war also. The first 7 year plans, the first 7 5 year plans gave importance to self-reliance. So 7 5 year plans, 7 5 year plans, it means at least more than 35 years, the time period of 35 years. So they gave importance to self-reliance. To self-reliance. First 7 5 year plans, which means avoiding imports of these goods. Avoiding goods from other nation, from other governments. So because like when we are getting more and more oil, crude oil from other nations, we have to pay in dollar, and you know dollar always growing up, and we face महंगाई, we face everything accordingly. When we say there is hike in prices, so there is always cost of, also the main cost of exporting, of importing the things. So avoiding imports of this, which could be जो है, which could be produced in India itself. The policy was considered a necessary in order to reduce our dependence on foreign countries. So third is reduce. To reduce, what reduce? To reduce the dependency, right? Our dependence on foreign nations. Third point is this. So this is the concept of self-reliance. It is understandable that people who were recently freed from foreign domination should give importance to self-reliance. Further, it was feared that dependence on imported food supplies, foreign technologies, and foreign capital may make India's sovereignty vulnerable to foreign interference in our policies. If we take some assistance from our countries, foreign countries, they would always try to interference in our policies. That was the thing why we denied to take most of the things from another nation. Now we'll talk about the fourth point, that is equity. Equity. Equity is a term which is always used in all aspects of life. Equity. Growth, modernization, self-reliance by themselves may not improve the kind of life which people are living. So this is the system when it focus on kind of life which people live. Which people live. How many people live their own life accordingly as they want to live? People live. Kind of life. The most modern technology developed in the country itself and also have most of its people living in poverty. Technology is there, but people, most of the people were in poverty. In poverty. So what we have to decide, what we adopted to reduce the poverty in our life, to reduce the poverty in our nation. So it was important to ensure that the benefits of economic prosperity reach the poor section as well as instead of being enjoyed only by the rich. So we are talking about the benefits of economic prosperity should be reached to the poor section. So prosperity should be reach to the poor as well as rich. I am talking about the distribution of resources, the distribution of things what nation was developing, right? So many things were there. I am talking about not only one thing. So in addition to growth, modernization and self-reliance, equity is most important. Every Indian should be able to meet his or her basic needs of life. Basic needs of life. Basic needs of life like food, house, education, health. So basic needs of every person like food, house, health, education. These are most important things. Except these things, there are many things which every person seeks to get it. Right? So when we see how the first 7-year plans covering the period 1950 to 1990 attempted to attain these 4 goals and the extent to which they succeeded in doing so, with reference to agriculture, industry and trade. So we'll also discuss many more things in next chapter. So here we end up this chapter, this part of this chapter. Second chapter I will try to take tomorrow, and be with me at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Thank you for being with me.